And like if they have any type of money, they're definitely going through a service or there's a pimp involved. Just because the girls, when you do this, a girl has to have like, she has to focus on what she does in the room. She has to be aware of all of her surroundings in the room. Who's taking care of outside of the room? What happens when you get outside of the room? What happens if you end up on the outside of the room just, you know, with no underwear on? What if something happens? You know, that's the purpose of a service, a driver, a pimp. It's security. And you obviously don't want to go into a room with a John with $3,000 in your pocket. You know, and you obviously don't want to put it in a bank for obvious reasons, and you definitely don't want to leave it in the hotel room that you're at. And so you definitely move around a lot as well, so, you know.
You were looking, you like contacted a lot of people to find Johns you knew from before?
No, I didn't want Johns from before. I wanted new ones.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of them just started out as like, yeah, we'll meet and see if we like each other. And that was it. If I think you're the right type of person, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So a lot of it didn't even. But then as people wanted to switch it up, get a new girl, the girl was tired of him, he was tired of her, people started switching it up. And it's word of mouth spreads very quickly.
Oh yeah, no, very the internet, it's crazy. It's, you know. Do you know?
It's not. It wasn't even the internet this time. It was just all word of mouth. Nothing on the internet.
Wow.
This time around, because we couldn't.
We couldn't.
There was one girl that had an escort service on her, that had a number. But I'll tell you the truth, she stuck with a lot of her regulars and didn't go to a lot of the calls that came in through her phone anymore. She didn't give them out. She didn't go to them because we're too afraid of stings, and it's just too. It's on the news too much.
So the girls have been kind of doing it for a while, know enough
to back down right now.
So girls might be getting into
it. They're just in with they're in with their regulars. They're going back to old regulars. They're finding new regulars, but they're not doing 4 calls with different guys every day. They're sticking with their regulars, the ones that have money, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
The girls of that class, anyway. I mean, the streetwalkers and everything, they have their regulars, though. They have their regulars, just like anybody else. And they're sticking to them because I've heard of a lot of stings out on the streets, a lot of them from hotels.
Where mostly? In what towns, I mean?
Oh, I was all over. All over.
The stings?
New Britain. New Britain was big.
Yeah.
Last summer.
Yeah, I remember.
Last summer. I wasn't tricking then, but I was with a few girls telling me the ropes and telling me, you know, how it was out there. And but I've also noticed a certain, I don't know if you would call it like motherhood or whatever it is, but it seems like the older women are saying more and more, either to get the girls off of their block, or really because they are genuinely concerned, like, look, like this isn't an avenue to take anymore.
The young girls coming in, they
yeah,
try to
they're like, who, you know, like especially on the streets, they were motherly. They weren't like, bitch, get off my corner. Mm-hmm. They were like, look, you shouldn't be out here. You need to get a job. You need to go into rehab, do whatever you got to do, and get a job, because this is not an avenue to take anymore. This isn't an option. This is not as easy as it was. And if you don't know the ropes, you will get sting and burn.
Are you with anybody in
any listing now? I mean, are you getting calls from an escort? I mean,
no.
I mean, I'm not just.
No, I will not do that. No. People would call me and say, hey, I got something. I just don't like him. I'm sick of him or something. You want to go, you know, he's, you know, nice guy or whatever. I just, you know, I got 2 other Johns and I'm just not interested anymore. That's how it usually happened to me, and I would always ponder over it for a couple of weeks because I would have a job or money in my pocket, and then as soon as funds got low, I'd be like, oh, let's call him up. Or I get bored, call him up. It's a lot easier than a relationship. I'm kind of lonely anyway, need something to do, and he's willing to take me out and, help me with money. It's the way it happens, like, for all of us. You get to a certain point, you're just tired of being strapped all the time with money. And it's just easier to go with a John for an hour than it is to be strapped for 2 weeks with no food until your food stamps come in, or until that paycheck comes in at the end of the week after you had to pay rent. It is just so much easier. So much easier. Like you remember in Pretty Woman, she says, yep, it's easy cleaning up when you got money. It's the absolute truth. Absolute truth.
So you're saying like it's so much easier to do, but but you're saying you're not going to do that anymore. What's different from a month ago to now?
You have to just realize that you can't. Some girls do. Some girls make incredibly amount of money for 6 months. They'll work, and then they'll go to Yugoslavia or Islam or the Bahamas or Haiti and help out for 6 months. I've met girls like that before, and they're driving BMWs, but they're not with any guy. They don't want a relationship. They don't need a relationship, and their relationships are their Johns, and they use their concentration on that. And but it's just not for me anymore. Like, I want to have a relationship. I want to be with one guy. And I want to learn how to be healthy again to do that. These girls are, and you realize that, I guess, when you finally do find somebody you love. So, but sometimes you don't have anyone to love. So what does it matter? Why not live it up and do other stuff? Concentrate on other things if you don't have somebody to love.
And is it a matter of when you find someone that you think that's like that, you kind of...
I think it's just...
You have to learn how again, or you have to learn how to love?
Yeah. It's a glimmer of hope. And, you have to retrain yourself. You have to be like, wow, okay. And it's the fact, too, that you've been with all these guys, and you're like, well, they do it. They're all married. I'm sleeping in his wife's bed with this guy. But he loves her. He loves her. And, that's how it should be, but then you're like, they're just gonna cheat and call the girl anyway. Look at this guy, he's got everything. He's got 2 cars, he's got a yard, he's got a dog, he's got a wife, he's got a nursery with no baby in it yet, but, it's gonna happen. And you're like, he has all this, but he's still calling us. And it's just like I said from the beginning. They use us, and we use them. But, you can see it, and you may not have that yet, but, and then you're like, well, if I'm even with a guy, well, what's to say he's not going to cheat over and over again? And if he is, you just have to deal. What you don't know won't hurt you.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like it
but
colors
you have
you.
to,
Like,
yeah,
discourages you to...
Yeah, but you have to, that's just what you have to deal with. I mean, the world isn't pretty.